Plot and You just keep getting better. Their music keeps getting better, and their live shows are doing the same. I saw them live last night, in fact, at the time of this recording, at the Kentish Town Forum in London. It's part of their headline tour across the UK, along with Currents, Saosin, and Cane Hill. So here will be my recap of what that live concert was like from start to finish, each of those bands, and why I think the Plot and You, they are just on an upwards trajectory which shows no signs of stopping. As an example, this venue they played, it was the third time it was upgraded from the original one, and they still sold it out. It was absolutely heaving. And importantly and brilliantly for the very first band of the night, it was really super fucking busy early on for the first band. And doors were at 6 p.m. It's quite early. First band, Cane Hill, were on at 6:30 p.m. and it was already heaving inside the venue. Now, I've been a big fan of Cane Hill for many years at this stage, but their most recent album, A Piece of Me, I'll Never Let You Find, is really, for me, the best form of them as yet, and we were able to see an example of that at this gig. They were just playing, I think, only songs from that album as far as I could tell, so this is a snapshot of where the band currently is, and the sound was fan-fucking-tastic for them. Of the whole night, I think actually Cane Hill's vocals were the most prominently balanced in the mix. You could hear everything that Elijah Witt was doing, which was fabulous. They've got that sort of tuning effect going on that's similar to their most recent album, so it's great to have that representation sonically live. But the fucking scream vocals are so huge and devastating that the power of his delivery of those with this kind of casual, relaxed, swagger, confident demeanor is just intoxicating, and I thoroughly enjoyed watching that. All the musicians completely crushed what they were doing, not daunted by the size of this stage. They played at big stages in the past, of course, but the Forum is quite a sea of people in this theater-style venue, and they just casually ripped them a new one. It was a joy to watch. Very cool to see Cane Hill, and a massive crowd for them, despite how early it was. I think it's a testament to just how good that band is, especially in the wake of that most recent album, but also generally, like their live performances are consistently fantastic in my view. After them was Saosin, a band that I've not seen play live in something like 18 years, which is an insane number to say out loud, but that is the case. I think it might have been at Reading Festival or Leeds Festival when I last saw them play live. God damn. Pretty interesting to see them walk out on stage. It seemed like 3 of the members got the same memo for what attire they were going for. You know, that kind of like emo, metalcore, all black sort of thing. And then the vocalist comes out in a bucket hat and just like some chill, like Californian surfer threads, I guess. Quite an odd juxtaposition. It reminded me a little bit of like Fred Durst's most recent style choices in Limp Bizkit. Like, he's kind of doing whatever he wants. It's kind of casual. Doesn't matter. Just get up there and rip the songs, which they did. Now, I think worth mentioning, there was zero auto-tune going on in their vocals, at least that I could detect, which meant at times in the first song or so there was a little bit of pitchiness, but actually I love that. I like the kind of realness of that, and as the set went on, the vocals for me seemed to get stronger and stronger, and they just played the bangers from their past. It was fucking phenomenal. All the hit Saosin songs you want to hear, they fucking played them. Big sing-along moments, including ending on the incredible 7 Years, which is a very, 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 very old classic song. And it was great. It was a wonderful moment. You could see everyone around the whole theater kind of enjoying the nostalgia of that. But thoroughly enjoyed Saosin's set, absolutely. And shout out to the guitarist for the widest stance I think I've ever seen someone do, especially what looked like pretty skinny jeans. I loved the commitment to form that they went for there. It was a fun visual show as well as sonically pretty pleasing and nostalgically, divine. After Saosin was Currents, a band that I've heard a good smattering of songs by thus far. A very impressive metalcore band. I'd seen them very briefly once before at Download Festival. I think it was earlier this year. I don't think it was last year. And I was hoping to see them again with some better sound. I think it was kind of a muddiness to the bass. It was kind of hard to hear the vocals. So I was keen to see what they'd be like at the Forum in support of The Plot and You. And my takeaway is, unfortunately, I think the sound is still somewhat just not quite working for me in my ears, and it was the same case for a couple of people that I was with, but there's a muddiness to the bassy elements of it, such that when the whole band is playing, I found it quite hard to differentiate between the kick pedal hits, which is kind of a mad thing to say. Now, it's going to depend on where you stood in the venue as to what kind of sounds you're getting, right? So that's absolutely the case, but it seems to be that the front of house sound for them, at least the 2 times I've seen them, hampered the overall punch for me personally. Now, it didn't look like that was the case for a lot of the crowd that knew and loved their songs. They got a huge response to the crowd. The most circle pits and rowdiness of crowd I saw all night, really. Obviously, The Plot and You had a few big moments there, but Currents had the crowd in a frenzy. They're very slick. They put on a pretty polished, good live show. One of their guitarists is constantly doing these like spin kicks and things. He was having the best time in the world by the looks of it. But for me, I think because maybe in part because of some the sound issues I was hearing through the speakers, it was a little bit muddy and therefore hard to kind of differentiate between the songs. I found generally the songs were a little bit on the samey side as a comparison between them. I kind of felt like if you've seen one of their songs live, you've kind of got the full Currents experience and you're going to know what the rest of the set would be like. At least that was my particular experience of it. I found it a little bit too consistent perhaps from start to finish as a sonic and visual display, but it was very slick what they did. They're technically a very advanced band. I saw the guitarist locking in for most of the set because I've got quite complicated bits and pieces going on, so they're just like locked statues, get those parts done. So it's very well thought through, very carefully layered, and it went over super well with the crowd. I think I was lacking a bit of dynamic variety within it, possibly in part because of the sound, but also I think the songs themselves, they're kind of like large sounds that sort of carry fairly consistently from start to finish. But anyway, that's my thoughts on Currents. It's cool to see them live for a full set finally, and there were certainly moments in there that I enjoyed. And then finally, it was time for the headline act of The Plot in You. Now, I had the fortunate opportunity to interview Landon Tours, the vocalist and the band behind the band, essentially, earlier on that afternoon. So make sure you subscribe to this channel if you don't want to miss that interview when it pops up very, very soon. Next couple of weeks or so is the plan there. Lovely dude. Such a fascinating conversation. I got me super excited to see them play live again. So I'd seen them live once before, about a year ago, and I was very impressed. Very professional delivery sonically, but also the songs they have are huge, massively dynamically interesting, and many big kind of flagship moments that the crowd can kind of participate in. I was so looking forward to seeing them, especially in such a massive comparative venue like this one compared to the one I saw them in a year ago, the Electric Ballroom. And it did not disappoint. In fact, they raised the game again. They brought a little bit more production elements here. They had some confetti, which they had the first time around, but they had more of a staging show to this. There was a sort of flashing TV box in the corner. There was a lot of anticipation before the first song came up. They clearly spent a ton of money on lighting. There were so many lighting effects going on, which is really cool. Added a bunch of color and dimension to the visuals for particular songs. There was also a moment later on in their set when Landon would sit down on a kind of armchair with a lamp next to it for like a quiet acoustic moment. So they thought a lot more about how they're going to present the entire story, as it were, of the live show. And bringing out that extra visual flair, some of those additional lighting production things, added to the spectacle a little bit, which was great. But importantly, the music is incredible. The sound engineering for that seemed to be brilliant as well. Maybe I wanted to hear a little bit more of Landon's voice, but that's because it's just an exceptional voice, perhaps. But also, I just crave a little bit more of that in the balance. But it was fantastic. And the songs that they've released in the last year since I last saw them have just, for my money, been getting essentially better and better. And I was excited to be able to hear some of them for the very first time, such as their most recent song, Silence, which is my current favorite song by them. I just adore it. It's one of my favorite songs of the year, and they did not disappoint. They did play Silence at some point during the set, which was fan-fucking-tastic. Something that I also adore about this band when it comes to their live performances is in the big sing-along moments or shout-along scream moments that the crowd is bellowing from themselves, Landon is still delivering the vocal as well, not kind of just giving it to the crowd to do. So you get to enjoy shouting along with the audience and also hearing his voice. It feels like a really amazing kind of collective experience. I love that fact, and it was great to see him do that consistently throughout this gig, as I saw him do before. And really, the quality of the songs and the technical musician and vocal performance is at the heart of what makes a good Plot in You performance for me. And clearly that seems to be the case when it comes to them delivering it as well. Like, Landon is not there to put on, currently at least, a big showy display when he's performing. He's kind of largely pacing back and forth on stage, focusing very much on having as strong a vocal delivery as possible, which brings the song out in the best possible way as a sonic experience. And the reason you go to see a band mostly is to hear the music, of course, and then the visual is kind of secondary. So that, in combination with all the extra bells and whistles they brought with their lighting and production, made it for a step up of a show compared to what I saw before, which was already a good, well-rounded performance. They just seem to be on an upward trajectory and show no signs of slowing at this stage. I mean, they're a fucking phenomenal band. And the song's getting better. They're adding more production to their live shows. They sold out the Kentish Town Forum. That was clearly too small a venue for them. Whatever they come back with next time they're in London, I'm sure they'll end up selling that one out as well. The music's too good, the performance is too technically brilliant, and, I mean, they brought a fucking phenomenal lineup as well. Current Saosin and Cane Hill is a big hitter of a lineup. It was clearly an extremely popular show, seemed to be good vibes all around in the audience, and so fascinated to see where the Plot in You go from here, and also some of those other support bands. Saosin talking about writing some new songs. That could be really interesting. Cane Hill, I'm imagining, are going to be working on some more material at some point soon. Currents, they just released a new EP, which I haven't heard as yet, so I'm hoping to get to that at some stage. But the music scene in the rock and metal universe is incredibly exciting, and that show with those four bands was a reminder of just actually how strong all of them are. The critical points I had there are kind of nitpicking, to be honest. Like, if I were to see that show of all those bands, say, 3 years ago, I think my mind would have been blown. The production level, though, and the quality of bands these days when it comes to live shows are just going up and up. I mean, where can we go from here? I don't know, but I'm excited to find out. Because as an audience member, it's such a treat to see such quality and experience such rapture of these amazing live performances as I got to do last night at the Kentish Town Forum. Thoroughly enjoyed that gig. And if you enjoyed listening to me share my thoughts of that particular experience, I'll be reviewing other shows as well in future here on this channel. So make sure you subscribe for more content like this. And if you want some behind the scenes stuff about the interviews that I do or what's going on with the channel, then make sure you join my Patreon page and you can support the channel whilst also getting a bunch of interesting behind the scenes and extra exclusive content. So have a think about that. Anyway, thank you for watching this. Hope you enjoyed it. If you were there, let me know what you thought of the concert or the tour if you were on other dates of this particular run in the comments. I'd love to find out what other people's experiences were as well. By the way, thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day.